Let's start off talking about this birthright citizenship case, which
Hmm.
I'm a recovering attorney, but I can read. I remember my legal education. I'm still licensed. I know the 14th Amendment. It should have been a 9-0 decision. That being said, I wasn't born yesterday. I predicted it would be a 6-3 decision.
Mm.
I also thought, as an optimist, it might be a 7-2 decision because I've completely given up on Roberts and Alito. I think they're complete, outright extremists who want white Christian nationalism as they end, their life and meet their maker. But it was 5-4 basically. Uh, your take on this win, but
Hmm.
the Pyrrhic victory, and it shocks me that it was 5-4. Dina.
Yeah, I mean, I was disturbed that they took the case at all because it is such settled law. The lower courts had already ruled that his executive order was illegal. So the fact they took it was a bad sign. They only need 4 justices to take a case. So you now know which 4, of course, wanted to take the case. They didn't manage to convince enough to get on their side. But to your point, this is way too close. And Kavanaugh joined. The reason why there's like a little different reporting, sometimes it's being reported 6-3, sometimes 5-4, is Kavanaugh joined Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett to make it 6 to say that this particular executive order that Trump issued was illegal. Basically, he even conceded you cannot amend the Constitution by executive order, but he didn't go as far to say that Congress couldn't change their federal statutes to change birthright citizenship in some way. Because it is true, the Constitution, of course, the 14th Amendment is what reiterates birthright citizenship, but Congress has also over the years drafted legislation. In particular, partly it's because also has to do with if you are born overseas, right? But to an American citizen, all of that, how that all interplays. So Congress has looked at it many times, and Kavanaugh's point was like, I don't want to say at this point whether or not Congress can do something essentially to amend the Constitution. But to your point, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, but this is where we're at, and it's not a surprise. I would go even a step farther, like you said, that this Supreme Court wants to give Trump a pass. I think it's worse than that because Trump
Mm.
is going to end at some point. His presidency is going to end. He's also an older man, right? We will not have Trump forever. But these justices believe in this unitary executive power and have well before Trump, and unfortunately will believe it well after Trump. To me, the most shocking thing is I can see if you are young Kavanaugh or you're young Roberts and you have this idea that you believe that a more functional democracy requires the executive to have more power. Let's just say you had this theory, because that's what it was, a theory. But then when you're faced with somebody like Trump, who gives you, as you say, a lawyer is about theory and then in practice, right? And like in practice, he's the best example of why you should not give a president too much power. But like the thing that I find so strange is that they're not willing to rein in their their desire to expand the presidency faced with this felon who's so extremely lawless and corrupt. They're just going to stick on that path and continue to broaden it. And unfortunately, there's no end in sight. This is not just for Trump. This is for their how they want to remake our country.
Hey, for people who don't know, we've talked a lot about it on the left hook. Can you tell everyone what the unitary executive theory is?
I mean, essentially, we have this right co-equal branch of government, of course, right? The justice system, the Congress, and the executive. And they believe that the executive should have more power. And all of their decisions really go into that, why they have just allowed yesterday, I can't believe it was just yesterday. So much has happened with the Supreme Court. Just yesterday, allowed them to fire the heads of the independent agencies as well. So these agencies, of course, are created by Congress, right? But they're part of the executive branch. And prior to today, they could not be fired at will because there was this interplay between congressional authority over the branches and executive, right? Because it is a little bit It is an intermix, right, between the executive and Congress who's authorizing the spending of those, but yet they're in the executive. So they don't believe that they thought the president's hands were tied too much by Congress, essentially. That's what they thought. That even though Congress can allocate the money for it because they're part of the executive branch, the executive should have more power over it. And if you saw that happening in perhaps a very reasoned way, you might not think necessarily their ideas were that bad. I mean, Congress is extremely dysfunctional right now, extremely dysfunctional. It's why our Supreme Court seems more powerful because Congress is so dysfunctional. If you had an executive who perhaps was lawful and more reasoned, you may not necessarily not like it. But when you're faced with somebody like Trump, who is so unlawless. You see the danger of it. And frankly, a lot happened after Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, as we know, prior to Trump, was the most corrupt and lawless president prior to that. And Congress put in a lot of limits on presidential power because of Richard Nixon. And and did rein in that power. I mean, the War Resolution Act, right? That Congress finally just passed a resolution trying to rein in Trump's strikes in Iran. That came about because of Nixon striking Cambodia. So, to some extent, you can say that this unitary executive power is their way of unwinding a lot of what happened under Nixon and putting us in a trajectory that we haven't seen and probably since like early parts of our history.
And also, I would say one of the great sins of modern America that led to a Donald Trump is the fact that Richard Nixon never spent a single day in jail. The
Oh
fact
my gosh, yes.
the fact that Richard Nixon was pardoned, the fact that
Yes.
JD Vance now is openly saying, "Ha, we do like 10
Yeah.
Watergates a day." Watergate was no joke, folks. I mean, it was a
Mhm.
massive criminal enterprise. Richard Nixon should have been in jail. That kind of get out of jail free pass, right? Oh,
Yes.
stability, both sides. I'll take it a step back. Civil War, racist traitors who should have been hung,
Mhm.
literally seceded from the United States. And instead, what happened, Dina? You know what? Hey, they had their difference of opinions. Let's make monuments after them. Jefferson Davis School, Robert E. Lee statue, right? And then you see, of course,
Absolutely.
the financial crimes of 2008. You know what? Instead of holding these people
Mhm.
accountable, they're too big to fail. And then you see Donald Trump, and you're
Yeah.
seeing now in real life, these people are realizing, oh, we can do whatever we want. Oh, we have power. We can flex. Oh, and this is to me, your take on why they're using Donald Trump, because even though he isn't their perfect vehicle,
Mhm.
he does enough for them, Dina.
Yeah.
That's thing number one. He'll do enough for me for my white Christian supremacist endgame. So I'll use him as white Christian supremacists have said, black Christian nationalists have said, even evangelical Christians for Donald Trump. He's not perfect, but he is a flawed instrument of God that we can nonetheless use for good, our good. And then
Mhm.
secondly, what we're witnessing, and I want your take on this, is we will fertilize the soil through Donald Trump. He's an old man. He's going to die. But then we're going to get our real warrior, our knight. And then we're going to pave the way. And now we're just setting it up. And
Mhm.
voila, just give it 2 or 3 or 4 more years. And we don't need this democracy anymore.
Mhm.
We're good.
I mean, he said that, right? He said, "You just need to vote for me this one time. We're gonna have it all fixed." And the thing about Trump is he lies all the time, but then sometimes he'll tell you the thing that you're not supposed to ever say, right? Like that. Or when he said, we're gonna use up all of our oil reserves in a few weeks." Like he's a strange person. But I do believe he was telling the truth. Like they are gonna have it all. They are gonna have it all fixed. But watch, I'm so glad you said that about Nixon because I feel like I have said that so many times. If had not been pardoned, we would not have Trump, and we have to learn our lesson, for sure. We have, like I said, I've also said this a bunch. We have a responsibility also as citizens. We have given too much deference to our president. We kind of treat him like a king. I mean, here, Nancy Pelosi and her husband had zero security, and Trump or any president like drives around with vials of their blood and their own medical. And I'm not saying we shouldn't protect our president, but we do treat our president with a deference and that we just shouldn't. This is a co-equal branch of government, and we should have been willing. Merrick Garland should have been willing to go after him. Now, in terms of what's next, I mean, this is, I don't know, maybe we're getting a little bit too off the Supreme Court, but this is kind of a theory I've been thinking, and I'm very curious because I feel like we're very like-minded in a lot of ways. But my worry, I do believe that Trump is sick or definitely not doing well. Like his dementia, he's getting older, like even just age by itself. He's definitely not doing as well. And I think the Project 2025 people, truly, he is a puppet. As you said, like this is just the beginning of them. He is a great cult leader, but he's still just the beginning. I think JD Vance, with some of the stuff he's been saying lately, is positioning himself to get ready. And I don't think it would be that hard for them to get rid of Trump before his term ends and install JD Vance, because JD Vance is a much better incumbent than candidate. He's an awful candidate. If he actually had to run, I don't think he would win at all. He's like a very kind of creepy type vibe person. But I think as much focus as we have on Trump and as we probably should have on Trump, I think those same people realize that JD Vance is not viable. And they also realize JD Trump is not going to run for a third term. And it wouldn't be that hard, frankly, to actually declare him sick or to allow one of those assassination attempts to go through. I'm actually worried that that Trump will no longer be president prematurely in a way to bring in JD Vance and take on that mantle of helping save the Republicans, which I know this is like a way segue, but I see some of the stuff that JD Vance is saying, and he's acting like him saying he disbanded his presidential exploratory committee. You have to do that with Trump, right? You can't act like you're competing with Trump. There's no way he's actually not running. So anyway, in a weird way, I think us as Democrats should be like calling for more security on him and, almost doing the opposite of what they want us to do and being like, yeah, let's get every little bit of security on them. I don't know, but I think there's going to be something happening these next 2 years that they are going to want to somehow replace him with Vance.
My take on this is the following. I think they know he's dying. I think they know he's not in a good shape physically. You see it. We see the evidence of our eyes and ears.
Yeah.
I think JD Vance is preparing himself. I think his backers, which include racist Peter Thiel and the Broligarchy, are preparing it. That's why he's there. JD Vance was groomed his entire career by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is against democracy. Peter Thiel is against multiculturalism. Peter Thiel was in figurative bed with Jeffrey Epstein. They both follow Curtis Yarvin, who doesn't believe in democracy, who wants techno-fascism. They want a king. I think JD Vance believes in nothing, will sell out his own mother and grandmother and his family for the sake of power. And so my take on that is JD Vance is just waiting. And I believe the long-term plan is the people in power, the phantom menace, if you will, the billionaire backers, they see Vance or Trump as just tools, as instruments. Their end goal is Steve Miller wants white nationalism, Russell wants white Christian nationalism, and Elon Musk wants power. What unites all of them is they want white men to be in power. And I think what unites all of them is they want this country to go back to 1853. Women, you have sex with us and you shut your mouth. Black people, you're here for our labor. Brown people and Asians, you should be lucky that we're not raping you and killing you. We allow you to stay here, do the work we want. We'll give you some, fruits and vegetables that, by the way, you get to pick. But don't strut and flex too much, or else we'll just rape you and kill you because these streets belong to us anyway. They want to go back to 1853. And I think they're like, we're going to set the stage, unitary executive theory, absolute immunity for the president. We'll rubber stamp any executive order through the side door. I'm forgetting because I'm exhausted. But can you tell people the way Donald Trump is able to basically just get these quick Supreme Court rulings through his executive orders? What's it called? When they just kind of rubber
The
stamp it?
shadow docket?
Shadow
The
docket.
shadow
Thank you.
docket.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so we're just gonna let them use the shadow docket and do what we want. But in particular, I think this 5-4 decision, to me, it's the Supreme Court giving a roadmap to Republicans and telling them, come back to us and we'll rubber stamp it. What's your take on that?
No, absolutely. I'm going to lower my thing a little bit. Somebody said that I was echoing. Tell me if it's still
Yeah, I'm echoing on your computer, but it's okay. It's not too bad.
Okay, I'll lower it. I'll lower it. So thanks for letting us know. Let me just know if it's gotten any better. I'm lowering it. Yeah, I mean, I think that yeah, the rubber stamping, right? Okay, here's the thing, and I've been so alarmed with this Christian white nationalism, and it really does tie into this birthright citizenship case that we started with, because with Mamdani's kingmaker victories in New York, the level of racism and we need mass deportations now. Wow. Like they have escalated to a really scary extent. And so it's tough because I think if you're just walking down the street as an average person, it is hard to convince maybe somebody that Christian white nationalists want to do all the things that you say. But if you actually are listening to them and you're listening to their party, that's exactly what they want.
Dina, just the past week, we just have to go to the past week.
Yeah. It's so scary. It's actually really very scary. And the birthright citizenship case, the reason why that is in itself scary is because he legitimized something that was such a fringe extreme theory before he made it an executive order. Nobody, like you talking about being a lawyer, could you imagine in law school that
Nope.
this would have been something that is debated? And now there's like a split Supreme Court decision on it. And when you tie that with his immigration case, where he's just throwing out people who, if they are from a country with the wrong color, I mean, he has said it himself. His followers now, influencers, activists, podcasters, they all say it now. They're not even like trying to pretend it.
Nope.
We need to get people who are not of this culture, right? Or not of this religion. Like this, I mean, Megyn Kelly the other day was just saying the most disgusting stuff. I'm like, it's so disturbing, right? I mean, I'm a child of an immigrant. I mean, this country is children of immigrants. They act as if there was one defining culture, and there really wasn't. We are, the Irish had the same thing when they came. But all of their actions, whether or not it was making it harder for somebody to seek asylum, whether or not it was taking away people's legal status here, which TPS was legal, whether or not trying to change it so people have a harder time becoming a citizen when they're born here. And then you do couple it with the transgender athletes and all the transgender cases. I know Democrats seem to not want to touch this. They feel as if this is culturally bad. It's, to me, I think that's ridiculous. I think if we're not standing up for vulnerable as Democrats, then what are we doing? And haven't we learned, people who were not willing to stand up for Palestinians, like you're often also not willing to stand up for other vulnerable communities. We can't pick and choose. And the transgender community, the fact that their rights are getting stripped away so blatantly and everyone's kind of pretty mum on it. If you think they're going to stop there, it's not going to stop there, right?
I'm so glad you talked about that. Can you mention the other horrific case today and what it did to transgender kids? Because essentially this court, to me, is saying that transgender people have no rights in America.
Yeah. And the sad part is they have been attacked by the Supreme Court, not just this term, but last term too. I mean, the latest was sports, right? This is the Republican obsession, even though the numbers that this is just, we're talking about a handful of people. And so state laws that ban somebody from playing in a sport of a sex that they were not born into, some states made that illegal. And the Supreme Court just upheld that. This was after last year where they upheld in Tennessee, they had a law that said if a doctor I mean, this is a doctor, not, somebody just on their own. If a doctor prescribes hormone affirming care to a transgender child, so the parent has to agree, the child has to agree, and a doctor has to agree. And often this is done because the child is suicidal. I mean, usually you hear doctors say this. This is often the choice between somebody feeling so uncomfortable with their skin that they are suicidal. And that is the level of medical care this child needs. And the Supreme Court said that they were not allowed to get that type of care. This is the Supreme Court and all those Christian nationalists that seem to always say, don't teach my child this. This should be about what the family wants. This should be about that. Well, this is what the family wanted along with their doctor. So the transgender community is,
So
let's
much for
say,
parental rights, right?
exactly. So much for parental rights. They are being targeted right
That's right.
now by the Supreme Court, by the right, because for one, they are so small. They are so small. And I mean, I know several families with transgender children, living in Los Angeles. People are more able to live that kind of life that they want to live. It is very difficult for parents. This is not something that families take lightly. Even if a child receives gender affirming care, it doesn't necessarily make their life any easier. It's a
It's a
very
very difficult
difficult
life.
journey. And I've talked to parents who say, I wish instead of them just telling us or taking away help, they helped us. Like, why not do more research into this? Why not make this easier for my child? Why? But that's not their approach, right? And so you have this very tiny community that is overwhelmed with just trying to make it through what they themselves are going through, getting just targeted by the whole entire Republican Party, with the Democrats not really doing much. And so it's an easy community to target. But that is just the first place they go, right?
No, but it's such a good point, and it relates to everything that we're witnessing right now, folks, because I've been what do I got now, Dina? I just got I told you so. What does it get us, right?
Yeah.
The $200 million that the Republicans spent to attack transgender people ahead of the election. It worked like gangbusters. I wrote
Hmm.
about it 5 years ago because I saw the template being born in Loudoun County. This is where they started. This was the laboratory, and they all Republican operators descended upon Loudoun County to see. I think we got something, against DEI and the woke, and our attacks on Black folks aren't working, but the transgender issue. This is winning over a lot of suburban parents and Democratic parents and religious parents. And then you saw Glenn Youngkin when he was running for governor, right, against Terry McAuliffe. Parental rights. We should protect our children. And if children should not be exposed to LGBTQ stuff, parental rights, parental rights. And Terry McAuliffe and Democrats just slow walked it. I was like, guys, please wake up. I'm telling you, I'm living in these communities. This will work. This will work. They had no response to it. They
Hmm.
had no robust defense for transgender kids. They're like, we're not Trump. What happened? Glenn Youngkin wins on part because of this last minute surge. And I know a lot of people, you know how you get a vibe, you live in a community, you're like, this is,
Yeah.
I'm like, he's going to win. And people are like, Waj, you're crazy. You're
Hmm.
just a negative Nancy. McAuliffe has got this. I'm like, nope, he's going to win, folks. I'm telling you, Youngkin's going to win on this issue. Then Republicans saw this and like, oh, we can now mainstream this. We can nationalize this. Aha, 2024 election, all in on trans panic,
Hmm.
$200 million. And you did not see Democrats
Yeah.
robust defense. Democrats retreated. They decided to be Timu Republicans on this. They're like, we're not Trump. We're not Trump. Instead, then you saw Mamdani go all in and say, I'm not going to throw immigrants under the bus. I'm not going to
Hmm.
throw transgender kids under the bus, right? They didn't do that, folks. I want to be very clear. Democrats did not do that. You had Democrats a year and a half ago after Trump won, they decided to go against the woke. In fact, I want to remind you all, based on what Dina was saying, that instead of protecting the most marginalized communities, they said, well, we got to get more and more to the center. We have to find the liberal Joe Rogan. Alyssa Slotkin said, we can't be weak and woke anymore. Gavin
Hmm.
Newsom of liberal California,
Yeah.
my home state, your home state, invited Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon to his podcast. We agreed with them on these issues, and he moved further to the right. Did that help us, Dina? And what we were
Yeah.
told was throw the transgender under the bus in order to win back the people. And then Democrats voted with Republicans to pass the Lake and Riley Act. threw undocumented immigrants under the bus,
Yeah.
said
That
nothing,
was such a bad act.
said nothing when El Salvadorans were picked up. And Dina, you're Arab American,
Mhm.
Arab Christian. I'm a Muslim American. We said, folks, the attacks on pro-Palestinian activists,
Mhm.
if they can do this to pro-Palestinian activists, just wait. ICE is going to turn around and do this to white folks. And even now, Dina, even
Mhm.
now, Dina, the Democratic Party says, F them Palestinians. Even now. Uh, and then voila, you get to a point where the Supreme Court says 5-4 on birthright. All right, we lost today. Next year, Republicans, we gave you just enough. You control the House and Congress. Come back to us and we'll do a 5-4 decision for you. And it's like the world's I told you so. They first went after transgender kids. They went after undocumented immigrants. They went after pro-Palestinian activists. And now it's on for everyone. Sorry for my rant.
No, but it's so true, and when those college protesters were getting really defamed, really defamed. I mean, my daughter was at a college where they were having those encampments. I actually went to one of them, and they were, peacefully protesting. They were intense because people in Gaza were intense. I had somebody say to me, "Why do they have to do tense?" I'm like, the whole point, but we had the largest college protest since the Vietnam War. And the Democrats were afraid to just acknowledge it. People just wanted to be acknowledged, but their speech was canceled. It was defamed. It was, I mean, the punishment so many of them got. I mean, at UCLA, those protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters, were severely beaten.
We've
Severely.
seen the videos.
Yeah, we've seen the videos,
And
and
Democrats did nothing. I'm
did
sorry, folks. People don't
nothing.
like
I
this.
can't tell you trying to reach out to, like, the mayor of LA and be like, "Why are you talking about it like this? You need to make it clear." Like, even the vagueness, "Oh, who got hurt?" It was like you wouldn't even know, who was getting hurt. The problem is the Democrats didn't have words, and frankly, still don't have words for how to talk about what Palestinians go through and are going through. And and yes, I feel like it's the same thing with transgender and why they were so willing to, Gavin Newsom has done some good things, but I remember when he went on that podcast too, and I was just so disturbed. I don't know why we have this hero worship of Republicans in this party. Like, why are we forever trying to get them to like us? It's ridiculous to
And they
me.
still call us pedophiles. Do you like us? No, we think you're a pedophile. Do you like us? No, we're gonna kill you. Do you like us?
Yeah,
We think you're evil. Do you like us? No, if we could, we'd just kill you. But right now we can't. But no, 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 you're godless, you're
yeah.
homosexual, atheist, leftist, demons, and we're gonna demonize you and mock you and ridicule you. You're like, thank you. May I have another? That's how it is. Maybe
No,
that's the kink of Democrats. They just like being like, what's the one? S&M. They're like masochists. They just like being beaten. I'm not kink shaming anyone, but it seems like
yeah,
that's what like your base is right here, and your base
right.
is telling you to
Yeah,
fight for you. You're like, shut up. I'm
yeah.
gonna go bear hug Liz Cheney.
Well, that's the thing. It was ridiculous. I mean, Harris, I voted for her. I campaigned for her. She was night and day better than Trump. But she campaigned with Liz Cheney a few times and not once with Bernie Sanders. And at the end of the day, we don't have to get Republicans to agree with us. As long as we get our own base fired up and vote for us, like that's how people win elections, right? So, okay, before we move on to the transgender, I think part of the reason, honestly, that it's easy to attack them and maybe why some Democrats have a hard time speaking about it is because it is so uncommon. Not a lot of people have even had an experience. They don't understand why, because why can't you wait till somebody's 18 to decide their sex, right? Or there's a book called Gracefully Grayson. So anybody on this line live who doesn't quite still understand it, that book is written from the perspective of a child. Gracefully Grayson. I thought it was the most amazing book. Definitely recommend it. Books are the window into cultures, religions, here in this thing, a transgender community, because we can't always know, right? So sometimes we have to educate ourselves. But that's the thing. These Democratic candidates, officials should be able to go educate themselves. But at the end of the day, we can't participate in any fear mongering or any willingness to, I mean, I think that's I don't know, you start to just see, like, this is the difference between a candidate who's really gonna or an official who's really gonna stand up for rights or not,
And,
you
Dina,
know?
Dina, well, we've always said, because we are among the marginalized, you see the level of Islamophobia that has just been ratcheting up, and it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. You look as just as Muslim as me, even though you're Arab American Christian, right? They don't differentiate. You see these hate mongers; they don't care. In England, in Belfast, in Scotland, right now, egged on by Tommy Robinson and Elon Musk and hate mongers, they're beating up anyone who looks black and brown because they're not white. They don't care, right? It
yeah,
doesn't matter. And so if you're not willing to stand up for the most marginalized, what it tells a powerful regime is, oh, we can do it to you. And you
yeah,
see, even now, Democrats are not standing up for transgender kids. They're not standing up for undocumented immigrants, and they're still not standing up for Palestinians. I'm talking about Democratic leaders. I'm talking about the establishment, and I'm talking about corporate donors. And what we always said is, okay, that will give permission to Donald Trump and this authoritarian regime and his lackeys and hacks, which includes the Supreme Court, to go after all of you. And voila, Renee Nicole Good is dead. Alex Christie
mhm,
is dead. They're going after our voting rights. He wants to, he's obsessed with SAVE Act because he realizes, oh my God, Republicans might lose the House and the Senate and the White House, right? They're going after transgender kids. They're going after women's rights. If you can do this to the most marginalized, you can do it to anyone. Uh, War on terror. I marched. I said the war on terror is going to be a disaster, and voila, the war on terror. Everything that they bum rushed, including the Democrats, Patriot Act, the Registry Act, ICE. It's being used by the Republicans to do what? Attack us, right? And so even now, you would think they would wake up. They still don't wake up. And I think what Mamdani and others showed is there's a way to say, we're going to fight for everyone without throwing anyone under the bus. I'll
yeah,
fight for you, Latinos. I fight for you, Black folks. I'll fight for you, workers. I'll fight for you, women. I'll fight for you, even Republicans, because I'll represent you. I'll fight for you, LGBTQ community. I'm a Muslim American man. And what's so fascinating, Dina, is we've been told because they lump us all together. It's all racialized. A Palestinian is an Arab, is a Muslim. It doesn't matter. You know this. They don't care. I've been there 3 times. As soon as they found out I was Muslim, it changed. At first, they thought I was talking to some insane racist settlers in
oh
Israel,
gosh,
and they thought I was like Hindu, so I was like safe. But as soon as
mm,
they found out I was Muslim, within like a minute, Al Qaeda, ISIS, Hezbollah, Palestine, it doesn't matter. That's what
mhm,
racism.
mhm,
It's all racialized, folks. You
mhm,
understand? They don't care. Bigots aren't nuanced, and
totally,
it's one of those situations where they have to realize that it's all of us or it's none of us. And that's the message. But instead, you see Democrats doing this piecemeal crap. And now the Supreme Court is openly saying, yeah, we're coming after birthright citizenship. It's 5-4. We don't
mhm,
give a shit. And
mhm,
you're seeing Stephen Miller use white supremacist conspiracies. You're seeing Elon Musk spend the entire past week going all in promoting white supremacist conspiracies, anti-Muslim bigotry. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, Dina, when will they learn? Like, what more do they need to see? And I don't think they'll see. I don't think they'll wake up when it comes to the Democratic leadership that we have right now. And I'll give you another example, Dina. Instead of, I don't know, attacking the Supreme Court, instead of, I don't know, attacking Elon Musk, instead of, I don't know, attacking AI data centers, these corporate Democrats have spent the past week attacking Dari Lisa Chevalier, Claire Valdez, and Brad Lander. And that was just the past week.
yeah. I mean, to your point, the reason why I always make a point of saying that I'm Arab Christian is because the way the conflict, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is framed is always a religious conflict.
Yeah.
And the idea that there's Christians that are killed, their land is taken away or impacted kind of defies that whole thing. This is a conflict over land. My father from Jordan, when you look at his 23andMe, he's literally been in that same thing generation to generation. He doesn't have a speck from anywhere else. He went to school in Ramallah in the West Bank when before it was the West Bank, right? When it was still Palestine, although he's from Jordan, and he had to leave, right, in 1948 when the first war broke out. This is a war about land. And so that's why I always like to make a point. But to your point, look-wise, you really can't tell. But there's so many Palestinian Christians that I know personally here in the United States who have family members there that have been killed or affected. And somehow they get completely lost in this conversation because it becomes about, oh, this is just a religious war. Where
Which is
really that's
ridiculous to
not
assume
the
that,
truth.
like this is inevitable because it's fated and Muslims and Jews hate each other. It's so
Right.
simplistic and
I know.
reductive.
It's not true. My dad always says they were neighbors, all of them, Christians, Muslim, Jews. They were all living in the same area, growing up and peacefully. So, I thought that Representative Jayapal said it best. I don't know if you saw the clip, but she was just asked that question about the response, right, by some of the Democratic leaders or James Carville to the kingmaker elected people in New York that Mamdani elected. And
I
she said,
can't be
how
member
come?
of the same. I can't be member of the same party that has our leader Chevalier. I can't be
Yeah,
a member of that party.
I know, right. So she was responding to that, and she said, how come it is when a centrist wins, it's the new blueprint, and when a progressive wins, it's like they're not allowed in the tent? And so she said it the best. I thought that was such a good point. The fact of the matter is that people I think I'm like you. We're in the spaces that people are. We're in those social media spaces where people are having conversations, and people agree with us
That's right.
more than they do with the leaders. And it really is about corporate money. Yes, APAC, but not just APAC. I mean, the reason why most Americans believe in gun safety laws, but not Congress, is the NRA, right? The reason Medicare for All is not so popular is because of the insurance companies, big tech. I mean, we have had corporate influence, and this is the reason why elected officials are so beholden not to their voters. Because frankly, running a campaign is really expensive.
Yep.
Like, I've gotten involved with the Democratic Party here in California and gotten a chance to see firsthand a lot of these candidates, and it is really hard to win. And we need to reshape it, because I don't know if people necessarily go into politics thinking, I'm going to take corporate money and then I'm going to become a stooge and I'm going to vote for them. But they have sacrificed a lot of their personal family life,
That's
and
right.
and their person running against them is taking corporate money, and then they think, well, I got to do it, and then they're in office, and then they're stuck, and it becomes it becomes this never-ending thing. Hawaii and Montana, I don't know if you've heard about this. It is, to me, the most exciting thing that's happened
I,
regarding Citizens United, right? They're trying to change their corporate code. So basically, states are where corporations are formed. Pretty much every corporation in this country is formed in Delaware. But in order to do business in another state, if you do a certain amount of business, you have to qualify to do business in that state, which means you have to qualify and to under their corporate code, right? So even if a corporation is incorporated in Delaware to do business in California, they have to comply with our code. So Hawaii and Montana are trying to change their corporate code to take away the corporation's ability to spend money on campaigns. Basically, corporations are these artificial beings that get like born into existence by a corporate code. And they're basically trying to take away their ability to, and that to me is the most genius attempt to change Citizens United without having to deal with the Supreme Court. It
that's
actually
right.
makes me very hopeful, because that was the other case that just came down today
I
with
was. It was a perfect segue. Perfect segue, Dina. And you did that segue all by yourself. Please.
they made it so right now PACs have unlimited ability to raise money for their candidates. Well, the
A six
parties,
three. Oh, can I just say real quick? A
oh
six
yeah,
three decision.
6-3
Another
decision.
six
And
three
so the
decision.
parties, the Republicans and probably the Democrats too, were like, well, that's not fair. We're diluting our power because the PACs can raise more money. So now the parties can raise unlimited money, plus they have the benefit of coordinating with their campaign. So if anybody thought we were going to suddenly have a three-party system, that decision makes that a whole heck of a lot harder. These parties, the actual like infrastructure of the parties, are going to get so much more powerful. And I would be so hopeless if it wasn't for what Hawaii and Montana is doing, because I think what they're doing, I don't know if you've looked at that legally,
I've
but
seen
it
the
seems
Montana.
like it could have some legs.
I think we'll have more and more legs, especially as more Americans are waking up to the poisonous impact of billionaires and oligarchs taking over and capturing not just our media, but our presidency. And the fact that there's this growing resentment against the oligarchy, and the fact that
Mhm.
more and more people are like, dude, I want money out. And the fact that we've seen these wins of these progressive candidates saying, I don't take money from super PACs. And people are like, you don't take money from super PACs. And I think the fact that if Montana can lead it right, which is,
Yeah.
kind of center right,
Mhm.
I think that'll be huge. And also, this 6-3 ruling that you're talking about, which loosens campaign finance laws, Trump openly, because he can't help himself. I want to read you what Trump said.
Oh
The
gosh.
Supreme Court just took restrictions off of political spending. A big win for Republicans, and more importantly, the First Amendment. President Donald J. Trump. So the fact that they're gloating about this, the fact that they're gloating
Mhm.
about the fact that these billionaires and super PACs and corporations can just unleash billions of dollars to win over elections and buy off political candidates on both sides, but overwhelmingly it helps the Republicans.
Yeah.
That just he's gloating over it. He's like, yes, thank you. Elon Musk can maybe give me more than $300 million, and Miriam Adelson can give me more than $200 million. But there is one thing about these decisions, and maybe this is well, I'll talk about the good news, and I'll talk about the bad news. The good news is, I think, Dina, we're seeing a hastening, a speeding up of the radicalization of the American public. So I'll give you an example. In
Yeah.
3 months, you're seeing now 75 to 80% of Americans, that number might be even more, become radicalized against AI data centers.
Hmm.
You're seeing it in real time. And now you're seeing the AI broligarchs kind of trying to do their best to reorient themselves. Because once these AI data centers are coming in people's communities, you're seeing Republicans join Democrats, and it's kind of bipartisan, this rage and this anger. You're seeing the fact that the establishment did everything to destroy Mamdani. He's one of the most popular elected officials in America. I believe if he was a citizen and he ran for presidency, I think he'd win in 2028. But
For sure.
F our life, he can't.
Yeah.
You've seen the fact that the establishment went through everything against Dari Lisa Chevalier. She won. Brad Lander won. Dr. Al
Mhm.
Mamawi won, right? And I think you and I have talked about Supreme Court reform. Last year, it was seen as crazy and radical and extreme. And Joe Biden, I think unfortunately Joe Biden is going to be remembered as a weak president, as a complicit president, a man who was a greenlit a genocide, a man who could
Mhm.
have done so much more but didn't do it, who chose civility to actual progress. In his final month, when he was a lame duck president, I think we talked about this. He came up with those reforms from the
Mhm.
Supreme Court, but there was nothing
Oh,
about
right.
remember that. But that's
Mhm.
about it. But there was nothing about packing the court. And I remember people like me and others who talked about expanding the court. All the centrists said, "Now, brown cow, you're crazy." I think the good thing that has come out is I think you're going to see over the next 3 months, this become a foundational litmus test issue. And people are going to demand Democrats, if you don't have a plan to reform the Supreme Court, if you're not for either term limits and or expanding the court, you're not our fighter. We're done with you, because nothing happens without the Supreme Court. I think
Yeah.
that's the good news out of this, that they have gone so extreme, Dina,
Mhm.
the fact that this was a 5-4, it should have been a 9-0
I know.
decision, people, a
Seriously.
9-0 decision. I think people are like, holy shit, they're playing for all the marbles. Blow this up or reform it, but this cannot stand. Your take.
So so, okay, I think that you're absolutely right. I wanna see what you think about this, because my theory about why the Supreme Court gave Trump, or any president, that immunity over, not blanket. I always like to do the carve out. It wasn't blanket, but they gave him immunity over the specific Article 2 power that's only vested in the president. And they said Congress, right, could not legislate, because that's what that criminal indictment was a criminal statute. They couldn't legislate on this Article 2 power. And that was happening all around the time that there was talk about subpoenaing John Roberts, bringing John Roberts into Congress to answer for the corruption of the luxury trips of Clarence Thomas. I think they did that as much for themselves as for the president, because when you have a co equal branch of government, I see them. This is what I see happening. Let's say we get the power and Congress decides to either impose term limits or pack the court. Well, that's going to get sued, and it's going to go up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will cite their Trump immunity decision and say that Congress cannot legislate over the specific judicial powers, and they don't have the power to impose term limits on the court. Or, I think that will be the issue, even more so than perhaps will there be the political will. But if they just said that the president, who they are equal to, has certain powers that are untouchable by Congress, I don't see why they don't give that to themselves.
Yeah, this is why we need Congress to step in and strip them of their powers. I think this is why if
But can
Democrats,
they? That's my point.
who cares? Just do it.
Ultimately, that will get contested
Let
and
them.
they will decide.
Let them. Let them.
Yeah,
That's
I
why.
know. You might end up in the same place. You
No, no.
might end
But
up in the same
this
place.
is why I say pack the court, dilute them. Who gives a shit? Let them whine. Let them whine. And you pack the court and you do everything. You just constrain. You just keep attacking them. You chip away at them. You give them term limits. You pack the court. You force ethical guidelines. You strip them of jurisdiction.
I just think that none of that will stand. But you could try, but I do not see the Supreme Court issuing a decision saying that Congress can impose term limits on them. I
Or
mean, even federal judges have lifetime appointments. I do not see them saying, okay, but you can impose term limits on them. I
then
don't see how that legal argument stands. But I'm not saying you don't try, but I do think, unfortunately, you get to a point where the Supreme Court is going to decide what laws apply to them because of how our system works.
then you allow them to become irrelevant. You
Yeah.
make them so hated by the people that they end up creating their own, if you will, irrelevance and their own destruction. Then you blow them up. This is for the protection of democracy, folks.
Mhm.
If I'm a president of the United States, I'll just flex like Trump. I'll do what Mamdani is doing. I have power. I'm going to use it. I'll just ignore you. Stop me.
Well, that's why I like the impeachment, because impeachment works. We know they cannot argue they cannot be impeached. We've impeached a president. We can impeach. And if you have the numbers to pack a court or do term limits, you have the numbers to impeach. But I do think what you said about making them irrelevant, to me, that's the most important thing. Because we're a co-equal branch of government, the Supreme Court only appears more powerful
Yes,
because Congress is so dysfunctional.
that's
So if
right.
you got rid of the filibuster and they actually could pass laws, because there's been a lot of laws, frankly, even the TPS standing and the metering laws, those were not like constitutional issues. Those were interpretations of federal law. Congress could rewrite the TPS statute. They could rewrite the metering. So I do think that the Supreme Court right now seems very powerful. Actually, even Kavanaugh, as much as I do not like Kavanaugh, kind of admitted this. And I think it was the tariff ruling. He said, aren't we having more executive action, more executive orders because Congress is really not doing that much. And so I do think that there's maybe like a hyper fixation on the court where really we need Congress to become a functioning governing body again.
Um, I, Without the Supreme Court, we get nothing, folks. That's a fact. Without the Supreme Court, we get nothing. And the only reason why I had the civil rights movement was because of the Supreme Court that undid the horrific Plessy v. Ferguson case with Brown versus Board of Education. You had Marshall Court, right, that came in and did that. We need a new Supreme Court, and that has become a litmus test. I want to make their lives as uncomfortable as possible. I want them to be miserable. I want them to be afraid. I want Oh, you don't like being impeached? Okay, term limits. You don't like term limits? Pack the court. You don't like pack the court? Ethical reforms. You don't like ethical reforms? I don't have the president of the United States mock you. Like literally, we could have nice things if it wasn't for these hacks in the Supreme Court. That's what I want. Like, why not, Dina? Like, literally, it was, but the sanctity and the separation of powers. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that's done. We have a rapist in the White House who literally is covering up an international pedophile cabal. I don't care. Uh, I
But
want
look at even Dobbs, we could have a federal law today protecting the right to choice.
absolutely.
So like, maybe we should not over blame the Supreme Court. Like, aren't we
No, we
giving
can.
Congress a
We can.
little bit of a pass?
Uh, we can overblame the Supreme Court and we can overblame Congress. I think we can do both, Dina.
Well, it's ironic because my podcast, Unprecedented, is about the Supreme Court. But I do think that as awful as it is, you know, every time we talk about the Supreme Court overturning Roe, in the same breath, we should be asking why our elected officials aren't passing a federal law
And
today.
why aren't Democrats fighting for it? Democrats have not
Yeah,
said a peep about Roe. When was the last time you heard Democrats say anything
I
about
know.
Roe?
Yeah,
Right? So I think all yes, we're children of immigrants, Dina. We could do all of it,
we
and
could
I
do
think,
all of it.
but I think to your point, it's a incestuous pro-death cult. It's a right-wing authoritarian movement working in tandem. They're playing for all the marbles. They want to take
Yeah,
this. The one edit I had is I've always said this. I said this when I was on CNN during the first Trump administration. I said they want to take this country back to 1953, and people always were like, "What are you talking? Bro, you're crazy." It's the world's worst. I told you so. Like I wish I was wrong
yeah,
about all this stuff, but I was wrong. I edited myself. 1853. They want to
yeah,
go back to 1853. What unifies these people, right? Because they all have their own agendas. Stephen Miller is an outright white nationalist. Russell Vought is a white Christian nationalist. Elon Musk is a racist, white supremacist, techno fascist. At the end of the day, what unites all of them is they want all the money, they want all the power, they want all the resources, and they want it for white men. That
yeah,
unites all of them. And they have their vehicle in Trump and now in JD Vance.
yeah,
And you're the practicing attorney right now. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't
yeah.
care, and they're telling you. And
Hmm.
the funny thing is, with even the Calais decision, where they're allowing Republicans to push through their racist maps, Dina, they went against their own reasoning
I
to
know.
promote Alabama's racist maps. Like literally in Calais, they're like, well, if it's neutral when it comes to if there's no discriminatory intent or language that can be seen, then you can't infer it. But of course, if there is discriminatory language, then those maps cannot stand. And in Alabama, the lower courts held these are racist maps, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, it's fine.
I know. No, I think it is as bad as you say, as bad as you say. And these next few months and years are the difference between whether or not this country is what we thought it would be or could be. The white supremacist Christian nationalist techno, whatever, like I love how you
Fascist.
framed that all. Maybe you need a new phrase to group them all together, are absolutely wanting it. And the number of people I saw online talking about mass deportation of Muslims, mass deportation of people from third world countries, as they say. I mean, after the Mamdani wins, alarming. And this is their I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but Trump had that prayer where he fell asleep. He was sitting in the Oval Office and they were praying behind him. And one of the pastors said there is no separation of church and state.
Yep, that was last
And
week.
under this Supreme Court, that may be true not that long from now. I mean, right? Texas is now requiring like reading of the Bible. And I saw somebody try to justify that, saying, well, they should be reading about the Bible because that is what is the history of our country. And this is just teaching history. It is very, very alarming. So alarming. Thankfully, because I always like to see the silver lining is there are people like you speaking about it. And, because otherwise, frankly, a lot of people just, people have busy lives. They go about their days. They're not maybe going to hear all these alarming statements people are saying. The more that we know about it, because the fact is we are the majority, right? That's why they're trying to tamper with the elections. We are the majority. We cannot get cynical. We cannot think like they have so much power. They have so much money. They're going to rig the elections anyway. Or all the candidates take corporate money. I'm not going to vote. I don't know about you, Watch, but I know a lot of people in my family who are like diehard Democrats who are like, I will not vote if that person takes APAC or if that person takes corporate. And I say to them, okay, do that in the Democratic primary. Like go as hard as you can to promote the person in the Democratic primary. But once you go against a Republican, please vote for that Democrat. But there are some people who are like, I'm just not going to vote. I mean, but we like, everyone,
Yeah,
this is a personal choice. For me, as bad as that Democrat is, it's still much better than the Republican But this is both a marathon and a sprint, right, Raj? We're not going to fix this overnight. Uh,
Look, if I just had this, I didn't have this debate. I didn't disagree with Allison. Allison Gill was just on. She said the same thing you said. But to your point, I don't disagree with what you said or she said. It's not a disagreement. How we get there. I need a good cop approach and bad cop approach. So you and Allison be the good cops. But to your
right.
first point, people are done, Dina.
Hmm.
They don't have time for that. What you said was exactly logical. I know that's the strategy. People are done. People are being radicalized in real time. No matter what you say to them and do poo poo and shame on you, they don't give a shit. You saw it 2024. So you
Hmm.
voted for a genocide, F you. Or you're not promising reform, F you. And I think people need change immediately. So you need good cop and bad cop. I'm willing to be the bad cop. I'm willing to say, I'm not going to vote for you. I don't worship you. I don't care
Hmm.
about you. I want to put the fear of God in you. My job is to destroy you and crush you because you take money from APAC and crypto, and you've sold us out. For 10 years, you've said vote blue no matter who. But then when we vote for blue that you don't like, you're willing to crush them. I don't see you promoting Supreme Court reform, Chuck Schumer. I saw your post. Nothing about Supreme Court reform, nothing about abolishing ICE. My job is to destroy you. Hopefully that puts the fear of God in them. And then people like you and Allison can go to them and say, my friend
Hmm.
Waj, he looks like a scary brown Muslim, but he's not that bad of a guy. But listen, there are a lot of other people who are really angry, so you better give them something. That Warbalot, that scary darky, keep him away from me. And I'll just sit there and I'll pretend to be angry. I'll have like a bat. I'm like, right? That's what I think we need to put the fear of God in them, Dina, because it's been 10 years. And even now, like Kristen Gillibrand has called Mamdani essentially a jihadist, has
Yeah.
quickly embraced him, but shares a tweet over the weekend, a smiley, happy tweet with Ted Cruz exchanging the New York Knicks jersey. And her 22-year-old son just somehow raised $30 million for his firm, and she takes money from crypto.
Right.
That's what she decided to post because they have no fear, Dina. And
No,
so
it's true.
that's what I'm openly
Yeah.
saying. It. Like, I'll be the bad cop,
Yeah.
and we need some good cops, and we need to put the fear of God in Schumer and this
And
now.
you know what? I'll be the good cop. Okay, we do. I agree. We need the bad cop and the good cop. But I do want to say that even as the good cop, I hate the blaming voters for not voting. Nobody is entitled to somebody's vote. You earn their vote. So the thing that really bothered me after Harris and after some other people is like, oh, she lost because they didn't vote. No, she lost because she didn't earn the vote of some
Absolutely.
people. We, in a democracy, these candidates have to earn your vote. This is the point. Nobody is entitled to somebody's vote. So I don't like that paradigm. I think the question should be, why are you not earning the vote of a particular community? It means that you really, because I have to say too, I was a former secretary of the Arab American Caucus in the California Democratic Party. I was really in those spaces at the 2024 election. And people didn't really need a lot.
Nope.
Like, they were asking, "Please, can somebody just speak on the convention floor at the DNC?" Like, a doctor who was
Yes.
at Gaza. Like,
Bare minimum.
crumbs, crumbs. This issue has not just started for our community, it has been around for decades. Nobody was looking for somebody to come up with a solution wrapped up in a bow, but they needed to feel heard. They needed to feel compassion. They needed to, frankly, be acknowledged. Like, this is horrible. We are supplying weapons. I mean, maybe at that time it quite wasn't a genocide, but mass killings. And we are trying to rein in our ally. We're not doing a good enough job, but give us some time. Like, something. They were
And they said
so,
F you, Dina. They said
yeah, they
F you.
did. They did. And so then you wonder why the people didn't vote for you because you didn't try to earn their vote. You have to try to earn somebody's vote. That takes effort on your part to going to a community and trying to earn it. And I don't think voters need people to be perfect
Nope.
necessarily,
Nope.
but they need to feel like somebody's making an effort.
And guess what? Even with all of that, it's been a year and a half, Dina. They read the same polls that you and I read. And even they read the polls about AI, they read the polls about crypto, they read the polls about forever wars, they read the polls about Israel, they read the polls about APEC, and they still say F you
Mhm.
on June 30th, which is why they need to be replaced, Dina. It's been, I know, I might sound, they need to be replaced because even like you said, it's wide open lane, common sense. You've been very active in politics. Oh, this is what the people want. Okay, maybe we should learn our lesson. Okay, the data says that people stayed at home. They knew what was at stake, but they said, I can't vote for people who, I don't know, help kill babies and who are bought out by corporate PACs. What am I going to do? I'm going to double down. I'm going to double
Mhm.
down and support ICE and double down and take money from APEC and double down and go to the groundbreaking of AI data centers. F you. It's either me or Trump. Who are you going to vote for? And you got the answer. People said, nah, that's not going to work on us anymore. Now, in a perfect world, you, me, Allison, and others, we did our best. We're like, please, the lesser of
Yeah.
two evils is exactly that, the lesser of two evils. Please.
Mhm.
It wasn't
Mhm.
enough, Dina.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't, you could sit there and shame voters, doesn't work. Mock voters, doesn't work. Lecture voters, doesn't work. You have to inspire voters, right?
Yeah.
And so they're still
Yeah.
running on it's either us or Trump. And
Yeah.
I think it's not gonna work. But I think
Yeah.
there's a wide open and then the question is, Dina, why don't they take the wide open lane? And the
Mhm.
reason is because they're bought out. I think A, they're bought out, and B, I think to your point, you mentioned this in politics, once you surround yourself in that system, folks, you can go in with the best of intention. But you're told the Waj, the darkies, they're just crazy.
Mm.
Don't listen to them. We got this. We're good. Be centrist, be moderate. We're right, they're wrong. They're nutty. They're nutty people. And this is how businesses run. Listen, you're one of the good guys. Everyone takes money from corporations. Listen, just Olivia Troy said this to me. She was running until the Virginia Supreme Court decided to just invalidate, an election. And she couldn't run for that seat anymore because literally got gerrymandered. But she said that the Democratic strategist said to her, "Why did you go on Waj's show?" And then
Mm.
the Democratic strategist said, "You have to play it safe. You can't call what you're
Ugh.
doing a
Yeah.
genocide." Um, and so I think people need to realize, in addition, it's not just the money, money, money. It's also ideology, and also they're groomed by this kind of incestuous system
Mhm.
that protects its own. Sorry for my rant.
Yeah, oh, no, you're absolutely, absolutely right. I mean, I've spoken to a candidate who was in part helped get elected by the Arab American community, and he was like, "I'm afraid of AIPAC. I'm afraid of speaking out." And, it's like, are you more afraid of keeping your job or doing your job, right? I mean, at some point, you have to be willing to do your job and if it comes, it takes and it takes it. I mean, the one thing is the American people, I think, have come a long way in a short period of time. I think we are like-minded. We are done with the oligarchs of the world. We're done at the corrupting influence of money. This is why the progressive no pac candidates are winning. And we desperately need it because the American worker is beyond getting the hardship of making sure that Elon Musk doesn't get tasked. I mean, it's like disgusting. And then you add it on the fact that we're willing to, finance a genocide and not be willing to call it out. I mean, but unfortunately, all these things coming together, which are all separate tragedies, I think are bringing the people together in a more like-minded way that perhaps I think could win on a national level in a way that maybe it can't win even on a Senate level or a congressional level, right? So I do have hope that our 2028 candidate will be more progressive minded because of the fact that there are so many people across the country who I think 100% agree with you, Watch. So I think that playing it safe, to me, that's actually not playing it safe. To me, at this point, I mean, that's, playing
Playing
them
it safe,
wrong.
playing safe to me as the Supreme Court, the White House, Donald Trump, the MAGA. Look at their crash out on Twitter, folks. I stay on Twitter as a troll and a voyeur, but
Yeah.
also just they're Dina. I'm not talking about even the fringe. The fringe is now the mainstream. I'm talking about mainstream Republican elected officials. I'm talking about the White House. I'm talking about Stephen Miller. I'm talking about all the right wing pundits. They are livid over this 5-4 decision. They are freaking out. They are throwing Amy Barrett under the bus. All you white conservative women who vote for Republicans, they're
Yeah.
calling the DEI hire. They just see you as tools. Same
Mm.
thing with people of color. The second you go away from them, they will throw you under the bus. They are melting down. This what they were hoping for. This,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and so I mean, if you want to play it safe and centrist while you're dealing with fascists, to me, you're a collaborator. If you want to play
Mhm.
it safe and centrist when we're dealing with a right wing machine that wants to like eliminate transgender kids and people who look like you and me, because that's what it will do. Birthright citizenship, I'm a children of immigrants. My parents got naturalized. I was born here. They want to undo all of that, right? They
Mhm.
want to just make exceptions for white folks. And if you think I'm being hyperbolic, I give you the South African white refugees, where Stephen Miller
Yeah.
openly bragging about limiting the number of refugees that can come to this country. But he says we're making an exception for the white South Africans. And Dina, I just came back from South Africa. I scoured South Africa to find evidence of a white genocide. The whites are doing pretty well in
Mhm.
South Africa compared to black folks. And a report just came out in the New York Times this week, I think yesterday, that black migrants in South Africa are being hounded and are now leaving, like Malawis. So this is how racist they are, folks. And if you tell me
Mhm.
you cannot fight against this racist Supreme Court, it should have been I just want to end on this. It
Yeah.
should have been a 9-0 decision. We shouldn't normalize this. We stay
Mhm.
with 7-2 because we know how racist they are, but it shouldn't be 7-2 even.
Yeah.
It should have been 9-0 slam dunk. To Dina's first point, they shouldn't even have taken this case. But the
Mhm.
fact that it was 5-4, what more do you need to see? Final word to you, Dina.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're articulating it exactly right. The urgency, the really dire situation. I'm also on X because unfortunately that is how you get to see the window because thankfully I don't have people in my personal life who believe that. And it is scary, scary. I mean, they really do want to mass deport even citizens who are the wrong color or have the wrong religion. Uh, Stephen Miller, Trump, Megyn Kelly, those pieces, they tell us what it is. And we cannot, as Democrats, get caught up, right, on whether or not somebody is centrist enough. I mean, it's ridiculous. We're well past that. I do think your point is right, though, that we are, as a party, still waiting for Trump to lose rather than try to win. And nobody comes out and votes because the other person is worse. Like you said, you have to inspire somebody to come out and vote. I do think we've got some folks who could be inspiring in 2028. I mean, it's still a long time from now, but I do think there's going to be some litmus tests that across the board nationally may give us a more progressive president than certainly we've ever had before. You know, Biden was progressive in his economy in a lot of ways. I think if
Yeah,
Gaza hadn't happened, he could have been seen as one of the great presidents. I mean, and he did a lot with the infrastructure bill and with the Chips and Science Act. I know Bernie Sanders had called him the most progressive president of our time. You know, he unfortunately
Gaza.
oversaw the beginning, yeah, which
Gaza,
completely undid everything.
I would say the three
So
sins of Biden were Gaza, Merrick Garland, and deciding to stay in. Three just horrific sins. And then when it came to his progressive agenda, I would remind people it would have been even better. And the people who protected his agenda were the progressive wing of the party, and who ultimately derailed it? The centrists.
mhm, mhm.
Cinema and Manchin. Uh,
Yeah,
I keep receipts. And if it wasn't for Cinema and Manchin, he could have even gone further and helped more people. And so I try to be fair.
yeah,
And, I was like, well done, Biden. You're evolving and
mhm,
adapting. He just could not evolve and adapt on Gaza. He could not see Palestinians as human beings.
yeah,
He still wedded to the old boys civility
right,
type of justice. He should have brought in a bulldog. Merrick Garland slow walked everything. Donald Trump never saw the inside of a courtroom or a jail cell. The latest reporting by Maggie Haberman and Swan says that the only reason why he ran was to avoid jail. No shit.
Yeah, seriously.
And it wasn't just him. It was all the other people who were complicit in the violent insurrection and now receive the
Mhm,
world's biggest cover up, which is the Epstein files. And voila, folks. And then I would say again to end, uh,
mhm,
he didn't give Kamala Harris the lift throughout his presidency, and his decision to stay in just really hurt her. She was
mhm.
only given what, Dina, like 3 months to run and to pick a VP
Well,
candidate.
I think that he probably should have stayed in, to be honest. That's a whole other conversation,
Oh,
but
we'll talk about that.
and vice presidents are often not lifted up, but yeah, I think that was an interesting thing, and I if we could ever find out, Waj, who planned that debate in June, we will find out who set up Biden, because they have never done a debate before their convention, so I'm surprised that hasn't come out yet,
and,
but
and, and also Kamala, to her detriment, I try to be very fair on the show. You have a lame duck president. He's an old man. He's not running again. Separate yourself from the
mm,
presidency on Gaza. Refuse to do
yeah,
it.
that would have been so easy, really, so
And that
easy.
was her 2024 convention.
Yeah,
Can you just bring a Palestinian mother on stage with the Jewish mother, Rose Goldberg Poland?
mhm,
No, that
yeah,
was a choice.
I know,
Dean,
it would have been so easy.
so easy. Dina, shamelessly promote yourself, please.
Okay, so I'm on Midas Touch a bunch of different ways, but I have a Mistrial podcast and the Unprecedented podcast. And if people could check them out, actually, in the audio versions, they're pretty new podcasts to audio, and I guess the audio algorithms. So if you're in the car listening, try to find me on wherever you listen to your podcasts, essentially. The Mistrial and Unprecedented.
Dina, I was only supposed to speak to you for 30 minutes. We spoke for an hour and 10.
Oh, love it.
I've been going since 1 p.m. So I've been going for 3 hours and 20 minutes straight.
Oh
And
my
I'll be
gosh.
back. I'll be back because I'm a freak with Qasim Rashid in about 11 minutes. So thank you, Dina. I'm going to let you go. I
It
appreciate it.
was so great talking to you. I feel like we're always on the same page, and we'll have to continue our good cop, bad cop, although we're kind of more in the middle, but
Yeah, but it's whatever it takes. Look, I have no fidelity to the Democratic Party, even though I voted Democrats. I think they're tools. And my thing is, I think elected officials are tools to be used by the people for the people. If you're not an effective tool, I replace you with another tool. I do not
Mhm.
worship politicians, Dina. I never have. Even Mamdani, I don't worship him. It's our job to keep these people honest. And if these people are incapable of fighting for us, well, we're literally, what more do you need to just look at the last
Yeah.
week, folks? Today, go back from today to the past 7 days and just listen to what Republicans are saying. Dina gave you
Yeah.
examples of separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution. They're literally saying that,
Mhm.
like they're gaslighting us. You're going to have
Yeah.
to read the Bible. Oh, but by the way, it's the Muslims who are implementing Sharia law. What? Muslims and
Mhm.
immigrants are groomers. Oh, but by the way, we're going to protect the Epstein class. We're originalists. We protect the Constitution, but F the Constitution, 5-4 decision. Birthright citizenship. Like, where do you think this is headed, folks? So we need fighters, and fighters come in different shapes and sizes. Some people are
Right.
subtle, some people are blunt, but we're all working in tandem to help the country. Dina, thank you for everything. Inshallah, I can have you back on anytime. I
Oh
appreciate
my
it.
gosh, I'd love that,
And
for
thanks for being
sure.
patient with me. I was traveling.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm glad. I got you jet lagged and you can't even tell. So that's impressive.
Yeah, you always look exhausted and tired. You can't even tell.
No, you
Uh,
don't.
Dina always looks, and look, Dina always tip top, man. Mashallah, always tip top. Anytime she comes on the left hook, like always just polished, solid. And meanwhile, my mom's visiting right now. I know what my mom's gonna say. She's gonna say, she's watching right now, I'm sure. She's gonna be like,
Yeah.
look at
Oh, hi,
Dina.
mom.
She's gonna be like, look at Dina. Looks so nice. My mom says, God gave you such a nice face and you waste it. Um, exact quote from my mother. Thank you, Dina, for watching. Thank you,
Love
Dina, for
that.
coming.
There's nothing like a good mom.
Good mom. Thank you, Dina, for coming on. Folks, that was
Oh
Dina.
my gosh, I love it. Love talking to you. Have a great rest of your day and weekend, everyone.
Everyone, please, if you can, subscribe to Dina. I'll be back in 8 minutes. I'll take 5 minutes to wash my face and use the restroom. I'm back with Qasim Rashid. Folks, I will say something for those who joined me earlier today. I have been going on since 1 o'clock. This is the Left Hook. Everything is free. I was gone for 10 days. I do not regret it. I took a very deliberate decision to spend a little bit of time and money that I saved up to take my family. It's my girl, to South Africa. I took my mom as well. We just came back 2.5 days ago. And, I refuse to be this racehorse or this cow that is a constant content producer. I hate that term. And I knew leaving that if you don't publish regularly or post regularly, the algorithm betrays you. There's no loyalty here. And yes, the algorithm, it's all rigged. Um, and so, I couldn't, produce and write and speak every day because I'm literally traveling to another country. And I come back and I lose somehow like $1,500, and YouTube just like completely like sidelines me, which I knew was going to happen. And so I was saying this earlier. I was like, oh, did I make the wrong decision? Oh no. And then very quickly I said, you know what? I refuse to live my life that way. I refuse to be like this hamster on a wheel. And that's how they want us. The Broligarchy wants us this way. Work all the time. And then once you're done working, take a night job and do a gig economy and drive Uber and do DoorDash and don't dream about owning a home and forget about retirement. Work, 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 and forget your vacation days. And American workers, by the way, this is fact, American workers, more than any other workers, leave more vacation days on the table, meaning that the vacation days that are earned, that we deserve, we voluntarily forfeit. And what do we do instead? We keep working. So all of this is to say that if you have enjoyed anything that I've done over the past 2 years through the Left Hook, and you're a free subscriber, because everything is free, I will inshallah never have a paywall. Please consider being a paid subscriber. I am asking you. I will not ask you, with there's no urgency really, but I'm just like, if you do enjoy it, I'm independent. I've kept it the cheapest Substack. It's $3.75. In the new year, I did a New Year's special, but people seem to really appreciate it because times are tough. So I just kept it. It's a permanent, forever special. It's a lefthook.substack.com/special. It's $3.75 a month forever. That is literally less than a cup of coffee. So the way I'm selling it to you is, if you think that spending time with us and our guests is worth at least one cup of coffee, it sells itself. $3.75 a month forever. The lefthook.substack.com/special. And if you don't have the money, everything's free. Just subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube and Left Hook, just subscribe. And I'm just telling you straight up, that's how the algorithm works, folks. It's all juiced up and rigged. It is. Google juices it. Uber juices it. They all juice up the algorithm that way. And some people have mastered it. But there you go. Jen Budd, I got to talk to you about TPS. I'm going to email you. We're going to inshallah talk this week if you have time. Jen Budd just joined on in the chat. Go subscribe to Jen. She's fantastic resources. A whistleblower will tell you exactly how CBP and ICE works. And don't listen to me. Listen to Jen. She'll tell you, abolish ICE. We don't need it. Folks, thank you all for watching. I'm going to be back in 5 minutes with Qasim Rashid, but I will take 2 minutes to pray, wash my face, and use the restroom. Jen's reading my book. Oh, thank you so much, Jen. Once you finish reading it, let me know what you think. Thank you all for watching. Be kind, be informed, and please, oh, please don't be a fascist. See you in 5 minutes, 4 minutes.